Today we will be boring this 350 out, and this is an f2b Rottler, and this is how I set up my Rottler. Now, because we went through the crank and camshaft centerline when we decked it, now the decks are what we're going to use to reference everything off of. Referencing off the oil pan rail, you can find out that the block is not as true as it could be. I like to try to get everything as true as we can get it. Okay, so the engine is on the cradle from Rottler, and the assumption that the cradle is perfectly true, you would be wrong. So what I do is I put a dial indicator on it and I sweep it. Now we swap everything from 180 from here, so we're going half the distance of the circle. I've already done this point to this point to establish that the block is setting in the cradle true. Most of the time through the center line when I deck them, they are. So we've shimmed it a little bit to achieve 0. So we're gonna check it. And you can't see it, but I'll put a mirror on it and you should be able to see it. Or not. Yeah, let's see if we can get you over there. Yeah, we can get you there. It's a half of a thousandth off. So we're not going to get really worried about a half a thousandths, because I'm telling you, it's a hell of a lot closer than it was. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to center the boring bar into the center of this hole. Now, there's a couple ways you can do that. We can center off the original bore up here, or the ridge where the pit ring is stopped. Now this block isn't too terribly bad. You know, and some people might say, well, you shouldn't center up under the ridge. Well, I center up under the ridge to save a cylinder bore. That's kind of the way I see it, but we'll put the dial indicator up here and make sure that it's within the center of it. The boring bar has fingers. They are pretty close, but I like to get a lot closer. So I use this. And what this is basically a tool holder that I shoved a piece of steel rod in, clamped it down, and put my start gauge off of that. So it's getting a lot of washout, I'm sorry, but there we go. And I think I'm going to fix that right now for you. See if that's a little bit better to see. So basically it's just an extra tool holder that I have. And I just got close to the diameter of the tool cutter, and then I just put a rod through it. So this is going to allow me to sweep the deck, and then I'm going to sweep the inside of this hole. Now when I sweep the inside of this hole, I'm only going to do 180. I'm not going to do the whole thing. There's no need to. That's going to tell me everything, and then I will move the bar accordingly. Now how I do that is I put the bar in between float and clamp, so it's almost locked down. It doesn't move. It's pretty much at that point just sitting on the table, and there's no air underneath the boring bar to make it float. So it's a neutral position, if you would. I normally don't run this boring bar in high speed. There's absolutely no reason to. I've had it for a few years now. Well, probably many actually. And it does a rather nice job. And I know that you can buy indexable cutters. I'm not interested in them. I've run this machine. I like these. They're easy to sharpen, they're easy to keep up on, and I don't have to worry about breaking them and running out and trying to find more cutters. So I use the old style carbide mounted basically on a tool holder, brazed if you will. So I'm going to set you up on the tripod, and then I'm going to continue this. Now I don't know how good of a view you'll get. I might have to take you down a couple times and show you if I see its key stuff, but you'll kind of get the idea. Now this Rottler has been around, and I'm not going to lie about it, but it does an amazing job. Normally before I get going on putting the engine in the cradle, I'll make sure that the oil pan rail is clean and burr free, and I'll go over it lightly with a stone. I go over the cradle lightly with a stone, make sure that it didn't incur any dinging or denting when it was taken off. It's very important that you kind of keep all them surfaces clean and dirt free. Of course, there is a bar that goes through the cradle, and that's where your mains center off of, so you want to make sure that there's no foreign material on that or no junk on that. What you really have to be careful about is freeze plugs that are hanging out the side of the block. With this cradle, it can be a problem. Usually, you want all the freeze plugs or drain plugs out of the block. Some of the 4-bolt stud kits for the big blocks, you have to shim the cradle up, and I have a couple parallels that have been ground for that. So we'll get you up here on the tripod, and hopefully you can see what else is going on. These plates I made up because I don't like the hold downs running right directly on the block. They wiggle around and they move once you clamp them, and they can leave marks. So I've got a couple pieces of steel that I've sanded and made sure that there's no burrs, so when I clamp them down, they're going over a little bit bigger footprint than what they would have originally. I think that's probably pretty much it. We'll center up for that bore. Because this block had some shift in it, the decks weren't true to the center line of the camshaft, which is very seldomly ever the case. I'm going in with a 4-inch 5/1000 cutter. That's what it's set up for. I'm going to run it down to bore, and I'm going to make sure that there's enough material on the bores when I go to 125, so I'll be going another 20 over because I'm going to 430. I'm going to 4-inch 0.30 on the bore. I leave 25. I bored to 25. I leave 5 in the hole for the finish on the hone with the deck plate. So I'm going to pretty much put you back up on the tripod, and we will probably not be doing a lot of talking. And I'm just going to do the job, and you can watch it. There you go. That should be pretty good. Okay, we're going to sweep half the hole, so we'll zero out the gauge and make sure we got adequate preload on it. Okay. The gauge jumped. Zero. I haven't lowered the block in about a month, so I'm probably a little rusty at setting it up. But this is kind of a deal that I get into and I do, and sometimes if it's way off, which it is right now, it's quicker to use the fingers and get it close. So we'll set it up with the fingers. Now it should be within 2 thousandths. At least last time I lapped them, they were within 2 thousandths. But you don't ever want to bend these fingers. You want to be very careful that you make sure they're always retracted. Because if you bend them, then you have to find new ones, and they're getting kind of hard to find. And then you have to lap them all and make sure they're all true. And that can take a little time to do. So, okay, that's a lot better. We're not a mile and an acre off now. We're only about a half a block. Okay, so we'll set this at 0. Okay. So it said we were at 10. I'm splitting it. I'm going to 5. I'm going to zero the gauge at 5. I'm sweeping here and here. Looks good. Looks great. And we're at 0 at the back, so we're going to lock it down. Of course, you always want to make sure this is locked. I think I said that on another video, but the head's very heavy, but boy, if you forget to lock this or your air isn't on, I've never had it come completely loose, but you got to be careful. You got to be aware of that. So, you know, you just got to take your time. You know, make sure that the tool is all the way in and it's locked down and everything's good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to measure the bore, the length of the bore, and then we're going to set it up here. There's a stop. for the boring bar, and the boring bar stop is right here, and that'll kick the machine off. Okay, so we want to make sure that the machine doesn't go continuously and run into the bottom webbings of the block. And on 350s and small blocks, you got to watch it. This is a production head. This part of the boring bar sets lower than the rest, and on some blocks, which like this one does, there's a little knob down, and it's higher than the rest of the webbing, and you got to be real careful with that because you can drive the head right into it, you know, it won't probably do anything to the block, but it sure raises holy hell with the end of this. So we're 6 inches. So we're going to say 6 inches from there to the center line of my stop. It's going to kick off at about 5 8. So we'll see where she ends up going. This isn't the final cut. So we're only taking 2.5 thousandths off each side of the bore right now, which probably ain't even going to hear much. But hopefully what I'm going to do is I'm going to look down that and see how we are centered to the war bore. Sometimes when you deck these blocks and you square them to the camshaft center line, the cylinder walls can be like this. So if they are, sometimes I'll center in the middle of the bore down here. Like I said, we want to try to get as close as we can. We'll see how it goes. Okay, this is Pat McCarthy back. I'm going to try to edit these two videos together. I had a problem with the boring bar. I guess that shows you if you're going to clean your boring bar up a little bit before you put it on the video, you probably shouldn't. Okay, I'll tell you what happened. And there's adjustment collars on the top and on the bottom of the bar. Well, I didn't have any problem with it before, but what it was doing, it was jumping. So what I had to do is I had to take this bottom plate off, and there's a felt washer in there, and there's a set screw there. So you want to take that set screw out, the felt washer, there's 2 screws. And I had to tighten up the collars on the top and on the bottom because it was allowing no resistance in the bar, and it had too much play in it. This is an old bar. I've really had very little problems with it. That's kind of a maintenance thing. The last block I bored, it was perfect. So I don't know what's going on there, but you know, luckily we took just a light cut, and we got it all figured out. And if you can see in there, you can see why a lot of guys will want you to say, you know, let's just re-ring it. You know, I don't want to spend any money on pistons and boring it and all that. Well, you know, you see that ridge up there? That's where the rings stop. And, you know, they used to have a tool called a ridge reamer. It was supposed to scrape carbon out, but a lot of guys would scrape that ridge out. It was carbide, and it didn't care if it cut carbon or iron. And there's a lot of blocks out there that got screwed up royally from them things. But anyways, the reason why you wanted to take that out, a lot of guys thought, instead of boring it, which you should, is because you don't ever know 100% where the original ring was, or then, you know, if you try to say you change a piston out or something, and you say, I'm just going to hone it and go. Well, the ring can crash into that. And it's not round. You can see that. And this is only 2.5 thousandths a side. You know, the most wear is usually up at the top of the block. Well, you know, I was told a long time ago, you know, you can get away with murder on a cylinder wall, but, you know, you want at least the last 2 inches of the bore to be close. Now, I want the whole bore close, but I'm just saying that, you know, rings don't like to go in and out. And that ring is traveling down that bore, and it's flexing in and out, in and out, in and out. And they get wore, and they don't conform to a round bore that way either. I mean, this isn't round, but you know, you can see down there that you know, my boring bar does a good job when it's tuned up. Well, it's tuned up now, so we're going to take the rust out of this bore here, and hopefully, if everything goes right, take the finger out of the way. We'll put you on the stand and we'll continue. If not, I guess we'll scrap this video and go to the bar and get drunk. I don't know. But, you know, you want to break my heart, just tell me my boring bar is giving me problems, and that'll break my heart, because I had a Waida, and I don't know if you know what them are, but they're a copy of an earlier boring bar, like a Van Norman or something like that. Didn't have cat paws on it, which is the way Van Normans, I guess, set up on the bore. But man, when I got this thing, I thought I was in heaven, because that old Waida, I mean, it would bore a bore, but not much anything after 4th 100. If you had any big bores, it didn't have enough guts. So let's put you back up here and let's try again, and see if it loves me or not. Yeah, I don't. There we go. We'll get you centered. Hopefully everything's good to go. We're locked. Got the cutter in. She's all the way down, tight. Everything's ready. Everything's right. Okay, another thing you want to listen to is the audible sound of the bar. You can hear it's a consistent scraping or cutting noise. That's indicating to me that we're cutting evenly. When you first go through this ridge, you'll hear different sound because the material's thicker and thinner. A lot of times when you're going down a cylinder wall, if it's cracked, they'll make a different sound too. So, of course, you always want to I don't usually walk away from the boring bar. I like to be fairly close to it, just in case. But, you know, it's always a good idea to look down it. We're halfway down the bar right now. The bar is halfway down the bore right now, excuse me. And she's cutting good and everything looks great. Another thing is, you know, you can tell that it's on center of the bore. If you get a bore that's damaged heavily, you'll hear all different sounds because of the damage in the bore. Usually, if I'm sleeving something and it's got a lot of metal hanging out, I'll go in there and I'll grind the high spots out of the bar or the bore so it ain't so hard on the bar. This machine don't particularly care for interrupted cuts. So going in and out of material, it doesn't stop it, but it kind of lets me know that it ain't happy doing that, so you kind of got to watch that. We're about an inch away from before it shuts off, so we're going to take a peek down the bar and make sure that where she's boring, when I look down the bar, that we're not going to hit the main webbing of the bottom of the block. There's a shut off on this, but I want to be keeping an eye on it to make sure we're not going down the cylinder wall any further than we have to. Because this particular type of block, I've caught the production head on the bottom webbing. I didn't do no damage, but I didn't help anything. The block didn't go sideways on me. The bore was fine. It just kind of scratched up the bottom of the production head. So we got about another half of an inch of material to go. Okay, I went down about a quarter inch by hand. I'm not concerned about that because usually I break the bottoms of the cylinder bores down. I really can't overstate the fact that you don't want to hit the production head in the bottom webbing of this block. And it's close and it wouldn't hit this one, but man, I just really get excited about that. And then I try to help wipe the bar off when it's going up and get the iron off of it. You know, of course, make sure the cutter ain't engaged. You know, unless you want your center of your palm reworked by a cutter, and you don't want to do that. Okay, so we got that out to where it needs to be for size, and probably going to end this video shortly here. I don't really think you'll want to watch me do all of the bores, but seeing how we're done with this bar. Right now we'll shut the bar off. We'll move the bar out of the way. And I'll let you take a peek at what we got going on. So, this is the bore. It's got a little iron dust on it right now, but let's see here if I can show you. Underneath this iron right here, there's that little boss right there, and you can definitely see it on this one. You got to be real careful with that. That's a 4-bolt main. That's kind of a little extra material they put up there. This one's higher than that one. You got to be really careful. Overstating it maybe, but you got to be really careful with them with this type of head, because it hits just a little bit here and it'll scratch it up. Like I said, I didn't have any thing go completely sideways on me, but you got to be always aware of what is in front of you when you're cutting things. And I guess we'll end this video here. I hope you got something out of it and enjoyed it. Like I said, I did have a little bit of problems with the bar. I haven't bored a block in a while. I've been so busy with doing other things in the shop, valve jobs mostly, and building Pontiacs. And the last couple ones that I did, we didn't have to rebuild or didn't have to bore them, but I had to go through them. So yeah, there's a spanner nut up here, and there's a spanner nut down here. And I had to just tighten them up, and you can see that it does an excellent job. But, this machine's old, and I think I was told that Rottler really didn't care for these bars because they pretty much run forever. So, I mean, they're in the business selling new equipment. And these things are workhorses. And I've had this thing completely apart and fixed it. Just minor tune-up stuff. It was up here. There's a drum in there that had some detents that I just silicone brazed, and there was a pin in here that I built up with silicone bronze. But it's been a great bar for me, and every once in a while you just gotta do a little tune-up on it, and there's no service or support for these anymore that I'm aware of. So. Well, I don't want to ramble on forever, but thank you for watching. Boom.